So what do we think? He's kind of angry. Let's have a look at this one. So she was actually happy. So there's a lot of research going on into better ways to measure emotional intelligence, which will eventually trickle into public use, I think. One of the other areas where there's research going on right now is situational judgment tests. So using a situational judgment test is an example of trying to put a situation or situate these emotional skills into some sort of relevant context. So I've done some work developing some of these to test emotion management, and this is what a situational test of emotion management might look like. So we've got a scenario and 4 ways to deal with the scenario. These can be video-based or they can be just black and white. So here in this scenario, we've got a demanding client taking up a lot of Jill's time and then asking to speak to her boss about her performance. Although Jill's boss assures her that her performance is fine, Jill feels upset. What action would be the most effective for Jill? So she could talk to her friends or workmates about it. She could ignore the incident and move on to her next task. She could calm down by taking deep breaths and going for a short walk. Or she could think that she's been successful in the past and this client being difficult is not her fault. So the best answer is D, is using this technique of reappraisal to cope with this stressful situation. So these are some new directions. The field is continuing, but I did want to get to the point where I could actually answer the question that I started this talk with. Is emotional intelligence fact or fad? And the unexciting answer is that it's at neither extreme. The truth is out there. The truth is in the middle, as it is for most things. It's certainly not the cure-all elixir that earlier claims suggest. It's not more important than intelligence for job performance, as is still suggested in various forums, particularly outside of academia for people in their consultancies. Although emotional intelligence predicts job performance, it does so really for emotion-related jobs only, and it does predict emotion-related outcomes. So this is a useful set of skills to consider when you're considering emotion-related outcomes, but you can't just apply it all over the place. So my conclusion is, let's throw the bathwater out, all these early claims which are way over the top, but let's keep the baby.
One difference I perceive between intelligence quotients and emotional intelligence, or perhaps cognitive intelligence and emotional intelligence, is that although with practice you can get better at IQ tests, you don't actually improve your intelligence. Your intelligence doesn't go up very much. Is that also the case with emotional intelligence, or can we learn, can we be trained, can we be conditioned in such a way that our emotional intelligence goes up over time?
That's a complicated 2-part question, and I'll answer the 2 parts. The claim that you don't actually get smarter, you just get better at IQ tests is contentious. I mean, there's a lot of research going on that suggests that there's particular training programs that do make you smarter, not at a range of tasks, not just at particular tests. And I think it's a similar answer, that there's evidence that there are training programs in place that will make you better at the component skills involved in emotional intelligence, but there's still that chicken and egg question that you referred to. Are you actually getting better at emotional intelligence as a construct, or are you just getting better at taking the test? So I mentioned some of Paul Ekman's training tasks at teaching people to recognise micro-expressions. Certainly you can get better at doing that. If you do it enough times in practice, you get better at it. But the question remains as to whether you're just getting better at that very specific task that is tested, or whether all of your abilities are increased. It's difficult to tell.
Now, with the emotional intelligence, like all humans have emotions, so then of course we have the different levels. Now, with the productivity side, would we better not have any emotions at all for a better outcome business related wise?
No. I will elaborate on that. But it obviously depends vastly on the job. But I mean, if you don't have any emotions at all, if you completely don't see any emotions that other people are experiencing, you miss a lot of information, particularly if you're in the sort of client-focused role where you're trying to get people to buy stuff. You need to have those cues as to when they're about to cave in and, you know, buy it, or whether they're feeling genuinely anxious. Those sorts of cues are important. Even for, there's some research going on into how emotional intelligence is important for dealing with people who are trying to get their superannuation out now that there's been this global financial crisis, and you do need to be able to read people's emotions to determine, you know, how anxious they are and what advice you should give them. So, yeah, it's not better to have none at all. You miss information.
25% of our job performance is determined by intelligence. 7% is determined by emotional intelligence. What about the other 40-odd%? What's that determined by?
I'm really sorry, I didn't hear that question.
The question is about the other percentage that you didn't account for. So for job performance, 25%, 7%, and then you didn't account for the rest.